Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equality, and so much more. We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders.
I am Larvetta Lofton, your host and the founder of the L3 Agency.
Known as the brand maven who transforms organizations with her storytelling prowess, meet Larvetta L. Lofton, host of Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Black Businesses Matter. Well, it was just told to me that this is my first interview as Mrs. Arnold. So y'all, yes, I have, I've gotten hitched and it has been such a wonderful journey. Everyone that I work with, everyone that I do life with, were able to be there. So that meant a lot to me. Someone asked me, do you feel different? I actually do feel different. And I think that's okay. I do feel different. I am responsible for somebody else. He is responsible for me. And so for that, we are responsible for each other. So I think that is absolutely wonderful. I'm still on a high. So we're going to just get right in. But our next guest, he shared with me that he just had his 10-year anniversary, September 2nd. So happy anniversary to him. I don't know what it is, but this August, September anniversaries, I don't know. They're giving us so much love. We're surrounded by, like, it was August 17th, August 19th, August this. So I don't know. It's a vibe, but August and September to me might be the biggest months for weddings. I think I'm going to look that up because I think it might be, because I was doing some research around that. So our next guest is Marc Alexander. Marc Alexander is a visionary entrepreneur and co-founder and CEO of Lite Raise, and that's Lite, transforming how nonprofits fundraise and engage communities. He also founded Lite Tuition, expanding access to education. Marc serves on the boards of Freestar Financial Credit Union and the Armor Women Foundation, advocating for financial literacy and community empowerment. A past Kiwanis president, he's going to have to tell us about this, and Hickson Award recipient, he was recently named a 2025 Most Valuable Entrepreneur by Corp Magazine. Woohoo! And is a Macomb 40 Under 40 honoree. As an author and a speaker, Marc leverages technology and leadership to drive lasting impact. Welcome to the show, Marc. Welcome to the show.
Ooh, it is an honor and pleasure to be here with you today, Mrs. Arnold, for the first show as a married lady. Congratulations. Marriage is such a beautiful thing. I never do anything without highlighting my wife. Awesome. She is the moon to my sunshine. When you have those challenging moments, because of course we have to always show up and be on our A game, but it's our loved ones that see the bruises, the losses, the tears, and she pours into me. So I'm praying and just speaking this amazing things over your marriage that you can both pour into each other as y'all continue to skyrocket. But I'm excited about today.
So Marc, so guys, this is the first time I've ever met Marc. So I want you guys to know that I believe that everything is divine and ordained by God, right? Amen. You said pour. So that was part of our vows, was pouring into each other. So I just had to say that, Marc. And so instead of a unity ceremony, we did what we call planting and pouring ceremony. So we had a plant and we both pour water, because that's to nurture a marriage, to nurture anything requires us to put work into, and adding water to plant as your plant. And my husband is the first person to ever buy me a plant that I've kept alive. So that's the other reason. So we blended that and understand. So I said that, constantly pouring and nurturing each other. So the fact that you said that was like, that rang for me like, oh my gosh, was he there? That was a word. That was a word, Marc. That was a word.
Ooh, that means the Father is here in this interview. So it's about to be amazing.
Yes, it is. And we're going to take it. I'm excited to have you, Marc. merely because, let me say this. We've had so many incredible guests in this topic of trauma, because one of the things that came out of this was the impact that trauma has on entrepreneurship and how we show up in our businesses, how we show up in our entrepreneurship journey, and that it was important to humanize trauma, right? And not box it in. And so trauma doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it is a part of our life, right? It doesn't have to be bad. You can turn it, and that's what I'm learning. You can turn it into something that's beautiful and can be passionate. But I also think that it's because it's a human thing, experiencing trauma. So much so, Mark, we're going to dive in a little bit. I was riding my bike several years ago, and I was in Chicago, was on a bridge, brand new bridge on 39th Street. So I wanted to experience the bridge. And as I was riding my bike, immediately a car just flew up, and it was a car. Like, I saw the young lady just riding my bike, just kind of look at her phone. In 2 seconds, that car flipped over. Like, it just happened so fast that I stopped my bike. I actually, kind of rolled off my bike, just looked down there to see if I can help. Now I'm on a bridge, and then I called 911. But do you understand that I was so traumatic? Wasn't anyone I knew. And not that mattered, but that's the part that we have to understand, that trauma doesn't necessarily have to be something that we actually experience, but it could be because we watched it through another person, in the lens of another person, with our eyes. And so that moment, Mark, it shook me. When I rode home, I cried. I couldn't get on the train. I wanted to I was so traumatized that it showed me that trauma, again, I don't know this young lady, but thankfully she was able to be unharmed from the car accident, but it tripped me up. It really tripped me up that I couldn't go back down that bridge. I couldn't cross that bridge. They did nothing to me, right? Nothing was done to me, but it was the impact that had that literally shook me. It shook me. And so that's what I want people to understand, that trauma doesn't necessarily have to be, you were raised in a broken home, or, whatever that trauma looks like. We all have it. And I think we have to really see those moments to see the impact, because in that moment, it shook me. So when I took the train that day downtown, so the fact that I could vividly tell you, which happened 8 years ago, tells you that it was an important moment in my life, right? It was 8 years ago. I'm on my bike. It's not, It's not Christmas. It's not 4th of July. It wasn't a holiday. It was just a normal, Friday day, or maybe it was Saturday. And so that's what I want people to understand, that these moments of trauma doesn't necessarily have to be that someone did something to you. It could have been something that you saw, right? And so you made me think about, I don't know what made me think about that moment, but it really just dropped in my spirit, because I hear trauma all the time, and I hear it from the standpoint of something happened to me. So before we get into maybe some trauma that you might have experienced that may have helped catapult your business, what were you like growing up? What were some of your memories? What would people say about Mark as a little boy?
They would say Mark, as a little boy, was always happy. Now, granted, for the listeners who never met me, we grew up dirt poor. But that's when you learn, growing up in the hood, that it's not about the money you have, but the memories you have with family. My mom, who was a 2-time cancer survivor,
Amen.
She was the mom of the neighborhood. And she always told me, no matter where you go in this world, you can always come under this roof and be safe. And that's what gave me so much peace growing up. And we had such a great, amazing relationship. So when you talk to folks, they say, we knew Mark was going to do something big, because I was always a thinker. I always saw the potential, not just in myself, but others. I'm like, you know what? We're not going to let our circumstances dictate how far we're going to go in life, because if we can make it in Pontiac, we can make it anywhere in the world. But I had a challenging but great childhood.
So people would say happy. So
Yes.
you have to tell me, so then what was your earliest encounters with entrepreneurship? Was that around you?
All right. So for the listeners, growing up in poverty, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs. Now, granted, they weren't the ones that you necessarily want to glorify and promote out there, but you've seen things growing up, the flexibility they had at times, the ability to scale, but even from an organizational standpoint, and that's where I've seen the potential. Because one of these leaders, I'm like, man, if you applied that skill set, that talent, charisma towards something else, man, you can scale exponentially. So watching them and seeing how they can go further if they just chose a different line of business, I'm like, man, that's something I want to be able to explore. So I seen entrepreneurship early on, but it was once I started to latch on to some of the older people and learn about the freedom it gave them, but the discipline they needed to get there, where entrepreneurship really settled in. And I said, you know what? I'm going down this road once I get older. I actually started when I was younger, a snow shoveling company with two friends, Little Candy and Harvey.
I
So
love
Candy,
it.
if you listen in, I apologize. We made $10 that day, and I learned the quick thing about parent union labor law. When I paid Harvey and Candy only $1 of that $10 profit, Little Candy dad came to my doorstep,
I love it.
and we had a conversation where I made sure the profits would distribute equally. So always had entrepreneur spirit, but
Nice.
I've enjoyed it, and it's been a great journey.
And, when you are surrounded by it, I love the word that you said, the freedom, right? And so the freedom that it gives you. Do you believe that we still operate in that space of freedom today?
Ooh. Yes and no.
Mm.
The reason why I say yes, and I love the fact we opened up with the fact that the Father is in control of everything.
Yes.
We have freedom that He has already ordained for us, that's waiting for us. All we have to do, as it talks about in the book of Joshua, get to that other side. But the reason I say no, because as you read through Joshua chapter 1, you get down to verse 15, it tells you once you get over to that promised land, the expectation is you gird your loins, you grab your sword, and you go back and get your brothers and sisters. So yes, I have a level of freedom, but I have an expectation of lifelong work where I have to go back, reach back, lift as I'm climbing, and bring more people over with me. So it's a balance, and especially growing up or living in today's society, a lot of freedom is trying to be taken away, but it's always there. Just sometimes you have to be a little bit more disciplined to obtain it.
Yeah. I like that you use the word discipline, because I really believe that this is my opinion, guys. I believe that entrepreneurs and business owners have an extra dose of discipline. This is no shade for anyone who works for someone or doesn't, have a business, because you don't have, for example, right? I just come off of telling somebody a wedding. I was telling my dad, I was like, I got to go back to work, guys. I got to get back to work, and granted, right? And they were saying it, but it's that discipline to know. No one told me to go back. I know that I have to go back because that's the discipline that I do have. But in some cases, right, when you work for someone, you go back when you put in the time, right? You put in the time, then you go back. But the difference is during that time, you are realizing that I know that I could I could do all the things, but I have the discipline to do it. And I think, just entrepreneurs have an extra dose of discipline. I'm not going to say that people who don't, because one thing we don't have to do is compare. I'm just making an observation. So I want people to understand, like, there's an observation around that. So Marc, as you navigate, you came from this poor environment, right? But you had this spirit of happiness. When did you realize, like, happiness actually could be currency?
Ooh, I realized this when I started to get around people that I thought was happy. And that was so intriguing to me, because even as we go around, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a worker, you look at the owners of these companies, people live in these gigantic houses, and you think that they're happy. And growing up in Pontiac, all of our friends who lived in the wealthier neighborhoods, they would come stay with us. And I'm like, why do you want to come stay in our small 3-bedroom apartment when you have 9 bedrooms at your house? and because they lacked happiness. And I seen like, wow. So if I can find a way to leverage and show people my level of happiness, I built relationships, dynamic collaborations, because people were seeking something that they couldn't find. Now, let me correct for the listeners. My happiness is through Christ. That is that hole that I feel, and that's the only person that can feel that hole. And that's where it made it such a powerful currency for me, because everyone asks, why are you so happy? If you know how I pray, you understand why I smile, because my life, and we're going to talk about the trauma, has not been easy, but getting through those storms, I realized it was all preparation. All work works, even when I think it's working. So that's where that happiness came from. People are curious about it, they gravitate towards you, but you realize that it's that social capital that becomes invaluable.
Ooh, the social capital. Oh my gosh, that just, yes, we don't realize how important that social capital is to our lives.
Right.
So let's talk about trauma, right? You've got this outstanding business, Lite Raise, that I love the name. So when I saw it, I was like, Lite Raise. I thought it was, I mean, as a brand and marketing person, I was like, oh, I like that name. Oh my gosh, that's a powerful name, right? Because all nonprofits are looking to raise money. And then just now that I know who you are, just the light, playing off of light to be able to raise, you're bringing light into communities, and not spelled in the traditional light, but in that very different way. I loved it. I got it. I hope I got it when I said it. I got it. Did I get it?
Did.
I got it. I got it.
Nailed it.
So how is trauma and some of your challenges that you've experienced kind of has helped you or hindered you as an entrepreneur? Because I want to say that some people, it may have hindered you, but how has it helped you? How is your trauma and some of your challenging experiences, both you experiencing and also watching?
So I'm going to highlight two traumas.
Okay.
The first one, because before I started Lite Raise, I had another company, which is still in existence, called Lite Tuition. Okay. So in 2009, someone gifted me with an anonymous $16,000 to pay for my last year of college. Wow. With the one request I paid this gift forward. And that was a mustard seed of faith, because that year before was just filled with trauma. I remember crying so hard, praying to God, like, if you just give me the chance to walk across stage, I promise you I won't take this blessing for granted. And what people don't realize, prior to that breakthrough blessing, I had over $130,000 in student loan debt. Again, my mom was going through cancer for the first time. I was poor beyond what I can imagine. I spent majority of the nights crying, just wanting to graduate, because being on campus, watching your friends and your friends' friends graduate was heartening. But when I got that blessing, I moved like it was no one business. So that trauma turned into motivation to get across the stage, which led to me starting 10 years later, Lite Tuition, which helps students around the world, which ultimately led to me starting Lite Raise, which is now helping nonprofits around the world. So that trauma was motivation. But the trauma that keeps me going as an entrepreneur, my mom passing. So in 2020, one thing I've learned, and if you have someone that's going through cancer, I'm always praying for you. Yeah. It's the subtle signs you don't pay attention to. This woman, she beat cancer twice, throat cancer. But what we didn't realize is all the constant surgeries was building up bacteria in her spine. So I remember January 2020, during her 60th birthday, we all just ballroom hustling for her birthday. Loved it. And then 2 months later, she fell. Now, my mom can dance around anybody, but when she failed the second time, we knew something was off. It happened so fast when she passed away that it was so hard to process. I remember someone telling me, it's like, Mark, the pain hurts so bad because that was the first woman that you ever fell in love with. That's why the heartbreak is so heavy. And I remember saying, how did I get past this? That was traumatic for me. But then going through entrepreneurship, and you mentioned something earlier, that discipline is very important, because there's some days I want to give up, some days I want to quit, some days I feel like the world's against me. But on my worst day as an entrepreneur, it would never compare to the worst day of losing my mother. And I tell myself, if I can get through that day, I can get through this day. And that has become an anchor for me. That trauma, which still hurts, that's a hole that woman was amazing. Yes. But it gives me that motivation to keep going, because those were dark times. These are just windy days that I'm going to get through. So that trauma can hurt you and hold you back. But when you realize that all work works, even when I don't think it's working, and everything happens for a reason, you can turn that trauma into unstoppable motivation, which you need as an entrepreneur.
Amen. You just touched me, Mark. I lost my mother November 2023. Similar story. She was undergoing cancer treatments, and then she fell. And she made it through surgery. She did. She made it through surgery after going into cardiac. And after that, she slowly transitioned from there. And so everything that you said, she was the most amazing, generous, kind-hearted person in this world. And I don't think that we talk about death as trauma, because it hit me so hard that I couldn't breathe. I remember I couldn't breathe. That I couldn't understand what my purpose would be in life. And much like your mother, a warrior, my mother was that person. Like, she just doesn't give up easily. She's going to fight to the end. And she had one voicemail, Mark, that I still have. And she said to me, "Today was a hard one. It was hard." And that gives me, while as much as I didn't want my mother to leave, right? We don't want them to leave. But listening to that voicemail helps me to know that my mother had been tired, right? That you just get tired. And, if you have the kind of fearless moms that we have, they're not going to show you how tired they really are. They're still going to have a positive attitude and stay spiritually grounded. And so listening to your story, it just hit home, because it also opened up a side in me that I didn't know existed, right? I didn't know, and I'll say this, even as an entrepreneur, that my mother had a vision for her daughter, that vision would be manifested while she left. But that was because she had prayed. I've just recently got my mother's Bible, and it has brought me so much joy because it's so organized. It's so organized. It's not like my Bible. It's so organized, and I'm like, oh Lord, I'm a mess. But it just brought me so much joy that those moments I wouldn't have had. I wouldn't have had Mom's Bible. I wouldn't have had, moments of silence that at one point I was scared of. And now I know what it's like when they visit you. I never experienced that. So, while it's traumatic, and to your point, I was listening to someone today, Chanel, on NBC, with the loss of her husband. And when people say, you think it's not linear, it's not going to get better, right? It's not like, oh, tomorrow I'm going to be better. Oh, next week I'm going to be better, because you're not, right? You just have to deal with the happy and the sad at the same time, and know that, like right now, our mothers are talking to us right now. Like, they're right here in this moment. But it also, I think, this part of it is also the beautiful part, that because if we are steadily talking about our moms, they're not gone. They're still with us. And I think that's the part, that trauma that we don't see, that, right? Because we know that all things work together for those who love the Lord, right? And so all things work together, but at the time, it doesn't seem like it all adds up. And so I'm going to say this, Mark. I also don't think that it's the same way in entrepreneurship, right? You don't know that you had to work 18 hours in the first 10 years of your business. You didn't know that you were not going to have seek. You didn't know that you were going to have negative. Like, you didn't know that on the other side, you will be able to have to have more sleep than you've ever had. But you didn't know that going into it, You didn't know that, oh my gosh, like this negative bank account, am I ever going to get out of this hole? Am I ever going to get out of there? You don't know that. You really don't know it. And so I think that, and so what I would love to know is how you've used kind of this trauma with your mom-in-law to really help nonprofits in a time that's so uncertain, a time that people are struggling, like really struggling, Marc, and they're holding on to money, and we know that, when we operate in the spirit of Christ, right? If that money flows through you, you don't hold on to, you let it flow. And so how are you coping with that or helping nonprofits with the business Lite Raise?
Absolutely. So I want to just highlight something you said earlier that was so profound. God will give you the vision, but he won't show you the journey. Because when you were hitting on, I've been there those days, you're like, all right, Lord, this account can't be negative another day or they go close it. Or, all right, Lord, the bill was due a week ago. And just like it was with Joseph seen the vision, but he didn't see the journey. Because if he showed us the journey, what's not on the other side, but what you have to go through to get there, you're like, man, I'm just going to stay my tail at work and keep it going. But once you start to get there, you realize that journey prepared you for that future version of yourself. So you were dropping some jewels right there. I want to make sure the listeners heard that. That was pure wisdom you put out there. It gets tough. It's a storm, but it's worth it once you get through it. But going to your point with the nonprofits, what we realized, and we looked at a massive amount of data. So thank you to our amazing team. Neil in particular, he did a big project where he scrubbed all the 990s of nonprofits. And what we realized in seeing the power in some of the smaller ones. Yes, we have over 1.8 million nonprofits, but it's those ones that's doing the small numbers, less than 100,000 a year, that brings in over $120 billion. And we realized by not only equipping them with tech and helping them situated, but bringing awareness, people understand how important it is to support and advocate for our nonprofits. Think about this. If the world says that small businesses are the backbone of the economy, then guess what? Nonprofits are the backbone of the community.
That's true.
All these nonprofits, from churches to schools to those grassroots. Because when we grew up, they helped us pay our light bills.
That's right.
They gave us food and so much things they did, and people got to realize this is why we have to advocate and support them. So one thing we did recently in partnership with the Immoral Women Foundation here in Michigan is we have a nonprofit hub, a space where they can come to a high-end office space. They can collaborate. They have access to resources because we have to empower them. They are the people that take care of us in our darkest days. So it's the expectation that we turn around and do the same. And not only do we help them from a tech standpoint, but connect them with resources, whether it's attorneys, whether it's financial advisors, whether it's potential board members or donors. The more people they have, you know the saying, if you want to know your net worth, look at your network.
Yep.
So we're now expanding their network as well. But if they fail, we're going to feel a lasting feeling for the next few decades. That's why it's imperative for us to make sure they not only succeed, but become established and strong. One other thing just hit on to kind of tie it all together. You said earlier about the discipline. The goal isn't to get rich, it's to stay rich.
Yeah.
The goal isn't to get wisdom, but then know how to transfer that wisdom. And that's what we're doing with these amazing organizations.
Get rich. It's not to get rich, but to stay rich. That's good, Marc. I need that on a t-shirt because it's interesting. So just in my own, and I want people to understand, right? You've got to pray. You got to get coaching. You got to get mentored. Like you need all of that. And I had discovered just for me, like I didn't like the word rich. I just didn't. And so it came from because I thought rich people were mean because there was a rich person that my dad used to drive for and she was extremely mean to us and to our family in the way that she spoke. And so my dad would repeat that. And that's what I thought, right? That's just what I believed. And so now today, I had to work through that. That's not true. That was just for her, right? But understanding that to stay rich. And so I want to just put a pin in that to make sure that people understand that. So Marc, how do entrepreneurs maintain that level of richness and maintaining? right? To stay rich.
Absolutely. And that is a great point for our listeners to hear out there. So realize the level of discipline it takes to get to where you're currently at. You now have to not only sustain it, but level up. So whatever mentors you had in your, we're just going to use startup phase. Once you get to your seed round or your Series A, you now need new mentors that have only been through that journey, but have advice on how to navigate the next steps. So you have to be a life learner, which we all know, because you have to level
That's
up
right.
at every single phase. Now, what's important is also mentoring other people, because it's like a muscle reflex. When
Yeah.
you can take the information, regurgitate it, and teach it to someone else, it becomes second nature. When I started my first business, I was overwhelmed doing the paperwork. Now I can do it with my eyes closed and both hands tied behind my back by telling someone else. So you have to be willing to transfer that wealth. Because what we talk about so much is we want to create generational wealth. But if we don't pass along generational knowledge, that wealth would just be dissipated. We see so much. One generation work hard to get the wealth, the next one blows it, and it goes through this endless cycle. So we focus from a family standpoint in business. Not only is it important for us to learn, then to teach and put the people in the role. So we have to trust them. I'm trusting my team to run the company. I'm trusting my family to be a part of the business so they can learn the whole process, because I want them to be able to sustain the momentum we have. So, of course, going back to it, you have to be willing to be coachable, to accept kind advice. So there's a big difference. Nice people and kind people.
Come on
Nice
now,
people
go
tell you
now,
what you
Mark.
want to hear to
Tell
feel
me that,
great.
Mark. Tell me that.
Nice people tell you what you want to hear to feel great, but kind people, kind people tell you what you need to hear to be great. And
Oh,
you need those type of people around. My wife would tell me, hey, I have some kind advice for you. And that means it's coming from a point of love, but growth. Because I'd rather mess up at home, practicing in the office, than out there on the big stage. So you have to have that circle of kind people around that's going to let you know when you're doing something wrong to keep you on track. Because you want to make sure for that generational wealth to stay rich, not just rich in wealth, but rich in spirit,
yeah.
rich in mind, rich in emotion, that you can help build that same momentum and keep your family on that track. So discipline, consistency, and always being willing to be coached.
That I love that you broke all of that, broke it all the way down, because I think that people miss. I always tell people miss the message in the middle. We get the top and we get the bottom, but we miss the message in the middle. And you gave us the message in the middle. And right, we take a quote, we run with it, but we don't get the whole context of what you were saying. And it's funny, as an agency, as a marketing firm, we have a kindness approach. And I'm so glad and I say that kindness approach, meaning that if you are a vendor, if you are a client, if you are someone who joined our team, we're going to be kind to you across the board. Whether you pay us, we pay you, or you advocate for us, or you echo something we said, we're going to stay kind in that space. And I think that it's so funny that you said nice and kindness, because I appreciate that distinction. I really do. Let's talk about Freestar Financial, and then the More Women Foundation. I'm sorry about that. A More Women Foundation. So tell us, how does that connect to your company? Or is that, so break that down for us.
Absolutely. So Freestar Financial Credit Union is the premier credit union here in Southeast Michigan. So sitting on their
Oh,
board was amazing. So my personal mission statement is to positively impact 2% of the world population. That's 160 million people I have to help. So I realized through Lite Raise, by helping nonprofits, I can do that both directly and indirectly to get to that goal. Now, the reason I talk about my life mission is because it's byproducts that's going to come from that. We are going to become the first Black billionaire tech company in Michigan. That's not a goal we're aiming for, but when you're striving to help people, those are those passion and blessings that come with it. And I remember how this ties into Freestar. I kept asking myself, what does it look like to run $100 million billion dollar company? And that's where this one day I got this invitation to interview to sit on the board of directors for this credit union. And I remember suffering at the time from imposter syndrome. I'm like,
yep.
but Lord, I don't even make that type of revenue. How am I supposed to sit on the board of an organization that has assets in the nine figures? And he reminded me, when I open the door or sit you at the table, it's because you were meant to be there. Fast forward, sitting on the board, I've learned that money at different levels move different than what I thought. Now it gave me insight to how we need to manage and move the money where organization as we continue to scale from a few million to 100 million to $1 billion organization. I realized the difference between assets when you're small and assets when you're large. And I realized how your valuation can fluctuate in a matter of minutes. And had I not one trusted in him when you opened the door, I would have missed out on a master class of lessons learned sitting on the board of directors for Freestar. So that's one of my personal growth, but just the passion in general. The board is very diverse. We have an amazing chairman who's God-fearing and has been an amazing mentor that I did not know I needed until I got connected with them. And then the More Women Foundation. Kanita Moore Porter is a dynamic leader here in Michigan as well. Her and I were sitting on the township's zoning board of appeals. And I remember saying like, wow, it's 2 people of color on the board. So we made sure we connected. Now, one thing I want to just share, pause real quick for my Black business owners out there. When you're in the room and it's only 3 of y'all, don't y'all part away from each other. Y'all come together. Because what tends to happen at times is we see each other and say, oh, I don't want to make the room feel uncomfortable. When I see my peers in these rooms, we connect together and we make sure people know our presence are there because we are amazing seeds of the Most High God who allowed us to grow and flourish. And Kanita is one of those seeds. So her foundation is helping women throughout Southeast Michigan. She has an amazing co-working space for women, which our team uses as well. And that's how we got plugged in. Now working with Freestar as a board member, or More Women Foundation as a board member there as well. I see the impact that we can have by simply being passionate.
You're listening to Black Businesses Matter, and we will continue our conversation in a second. But first, take a listen to this special message for our BBM fam.
We know how important it is to stay connected, so why not join our BBM Fam Club for special announcements and exclusive offers by texting BBM FAM to 312-300-1300. That's BBM FAM to 312-300-1300 today. Now let's get back to Black Businesses Matter.
First of all, thank you for really pointing out that, because I think when we are in rooms and it's a small number of us, sometimes we do gravitate against each other. I love that you really said that's an opportunity for you guys to work together and obviously work with others. You didn't say that. That's the part that I appreciate. You didn't say not to work with, others but if it's that small number, is to really be able to lean into that. I think that's a great takeaway that we all could, because in those board environments, and I was going to ask you this, as business owners and entrepreneurs, I know for me, I only saw that for, executives. I didn't see it as a business owner. So by hearing you say that, it's very inspiring because, yes, I sit on a board for an organization here in Chicago, but I got it through, she was actually a former intern of mine. And so I had supported her through the business. She was like, I could really use your help on the board. And I've prayed about it. And the Lord told me it was time, right after my mom, that this was a good fit for me in that journey. But it's that thing is, I think that imposter, when you said imposter, I would think that if somebody reached out to me, I'd be like, you want me as a business owner to sit on the board of a financial. So I felt what you felt, from that. But it's so amazing because if you were called to that, there's something that you can obviously gain, but they can also gain from you. So there was value. It was a value proposition on both sides. And I think we all struggle with that and understand that you have something to come to the table. We forget about that. While we know we don't have the same numbers, but our intellect, our spiritual wisdom, is so much more valuable than those numbers that are in black and white, because that's the thing that helps you to really grow. So I love that. So tell me how, I love nonprofits, but I do find that nonprofits, there's 2 ways that I think that I want to say is that nonprofits don't always see themselves as entrepreneurs. They see themselves as nonprofits. And I think in my professional opinion, I think that's not a good thing for them, that they don't lean into them building something to shape communities. So it seems like technology is hard for them, to be able to do that. Because they're healing communities, right? And so when you think of technology, it's like, oh my gosh, we're not going to be for the community anymore. We're using technology. So how challenging, if any, maybe that wasn't the case for the nonprofits that you work with to really want to engage into technology to be able to really help them with fundraising?
So what's so crazy? You said that we just had a meeting today with the institution. We're talking about that pain point for nonprofits. So from a financial standpoint, when you look at nonprofits, 990, and 990 is the tax form all nonprofits have to submit when they're doing their taxes. Usually technology is at the very bottom of their budget. Sometimes they just don't have the funds to do so. And what happens is, think about when we look at trauma, you think about the cost of technology, you think about it's something new now the leadership and the small lean team have to learn, and it can get mentally overwhelming. It's that task, like, you know what? Let's just keep doing what we're doing. Let's keep serving the mission because that's an expense we can't afford, and all it does is create stress. And as we work with some of these organizations and we leverage that happiness aspect, like, why are these guys so happy about tech with nonprofit? We've made them see that it's actually comfortable and convenient for them. Because even now, with some of your most well-equipped nonprofit executive directors, they're taking on more work. And you realize that when you look internally at their system, if they just automated or did some tech tweaks here and there, their life would become so much more easier. But it's been such a hurdle for them because with some of these softwares, it costs you $20, $30 to sometimes $50,000 to get. And these are out of reach for those nonprofits that's helping in the heart of our community. So we made it accessible and affordable, and we gave them the control. And that's what made it easy. But when we talked about earlier, passing on wealth of information, that's the same thing we have to do. So any nonprofit we work with, they don't necessarily have to worry about using the software because they get a dedicated tech team to assist them. And that's the difference with us. You don't get the chatbots you now have to work through, even though it's available for the younger people. They like not talking to humans at times.
Yep.
But for some of our seasoned older people, we make sure that someone is always there, patiently walking with you every step of the way to make it convenient for you. So that's where we're seeing the hurdles for them being willing to accept technology. Some of them would love it, they can afford it. And then sometimes it can just be mentally overwhelming. It's another thing to put on their plate. But now we take on all those pains away from them by giving them the team, the easy to use tech, but most in place, a safe space where they can come and be with.
That's thank you for giving us that perspective, because to your point, they are dealing with trauma. So now you just add another thing to the list. So I can see how challenging that could be for nonprofits, for churches. I can see that you're dealing with people, and now you've got this robot telling me to call this pastor, right? Versus someone telling me. So I could totally see that. So tell me this, Marc, given the fact of where we are right now, right? You know, our political state, but we don't sign up to that as Christian believers. We don't get caught up in that. So we're not caught up in that. So in the construct of where nonprofits are being, and I'm going to say they're being attacked. There is an attack on them, right? For the good that they do, because we know it's for the good. For that, how can nonprofits, right? How can they level up, right? During COVID, it was some uncertain times and people didn't know. So some people made it through COVID, created a business. Some people didn't, right? So how, given the climate that we're in, how can nonprofits who may be struggling, if they're still going to be able to offer those programs and services to the community that they service, how can they level up in this climate?
Absolutely. So I'm a share first the nonprofits foundation, then I'm gonna tie it into how they can level up based off my own experience. So every nonprofit has three core things: your mission statement, your vision statement, and your purpose. So in these times of storms, that become your light to remind you this is why you're doing it. Now I use that reference because, as we know, Christ is that foundation for everything we do. It tells you in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, all work must be tried by the fire. Not some work, not the good work or the bad work, but all work must be tried by the fire to make sure it's proved and tested to weather the storm. So even as you're going through these challenging times, ask yourself, what can I do to improve myself? Sometimes the storm isn't sent to destroy, but instead clear a pathway. And you have to make sure you're ready to walk that path when that time do come. So think about when Peter walked on water.
Mm.
He seen Christ. That was his mission, his purpose, and his vision. But what happened? The waves started to come, the storms came, and he took his eyes off of
He
them.
did.
That can be finances, bills, debt, the state of the world. You get distracted by the noise and you forget your mission, your purpose, and your vision. That's when these things are happening, this is a perfect time to sit back, reassess, and say, okay, how do we move forward? And me being a for-profit business, we've had storms like that in the past where the hardest thing I had to do while keeping my eye on that light was be honest with my team. It was amazing. I was so scared. How do I tell the team we need to scale back because funding has been stopped, things have been cut off? And it's like, you know what? We get it. We see how hard you work, and we didn't sign up because we wanted a great paycheck, even though they do. They like the paycheck.
Yep.
We signed up because we believed in the vision, the mission, and the purpose. And you got to realize once that storm passed, and I seen that I had the perfect team with me on this journey, I became unstoppable. I had to go through that storm. So my amazing nonprofits, if you know you have been called to do the mission that you're doing, all work works if you don't think it's working. Don't give up. Don't worry, we all cry. As a man now in his 40s, I have spent more days in tears, but guess what? It clears my eyes so I can see the path better. It allowed me to do that self-examination. Find out, because when we work together in numbers, we become unstoppable. So maybe it's time for you to collaborate with your peers, your neighbors to make some things happen. But focus on the light, your mission, your purpose, and your vision.
That's good. And I say that's good because so listen to me. This episode, I'm challenging us all. This is an episode that I'm trying to tell people, drop it, share it, text it, email it, because there's so many people that are faced with so much uncertainty right now in the nonprofit space. So I am challenging our listeners to share this. Even if they didn't tell you they're struggling, there's something that they're struggling because it's in the atmosphere. You can't not. It's in the atmosphere. We all are feeling the weight of programs and services being taken away from us. And maybe that's a moment, to your point, to collaborate, going back to your mission. I think that is, we don't realize that, all this is ordained by God, right? And so we got to go back to that, go back to the basics of it and realize that when you get out of this storm, you're going to look at, oh my God, it was necessary because I needed to go through this. Sometimes you got to let go some people. And letting go people, as hard as it may be, is so hard to do. I experienced it. But what you realize is that there might be someone that's holding you back within your team to grow. And that's hard. It's hard. But they could be not that they are bad people. It's just they could be weighing you down, that you're holding on to them because a lot of times where we be like, well, because her mom's been sick, her sister, and that's fair. Don't get me wrong. That's fair. But you're also holding that heaviness of that person. So not only are you heavy, but you're also holding the trauma that they're experiencing. So that's a double trauma that you're experiencing. And we don't understand that there's impact. So the work that our nonprofits are doing, you're not only helping through your community, but you're also taking on some of that burden that you shouldn't be taking on because you were called to be able to be a service provider. And that's the thing that we have to understand and navigate. And so tell me about, one I want to go back to, because we don't know with this, Kiwanis president. You were the Kiwanis president. What is Kiwanis? Did I pronounce that right?
So yes, look at you. Yeah, Kiwanis. So it's a global organization that here to serve students to help one child, one community at a time. So they started back in the early 1900s in Detroit. And now they've expanded to now they have over 8,000 clubs globally. And I was the president of the Utica Shelby Kiwanis. Now, what's interesting, the way the Father works, because when I joined this club 2 years ago, I had just told my wife, I was like, baby, I know I have a full plate. I'm not joining anything else. I remember walking into that room And when I left, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to tell my wife? Not only that I signed up for something else, but now I'm about to be the club president. And I kept praying on it. I'm like, God, I don't have the time. But he made time for me. And what was so amazing about it is that opened up so many doors. At the time, I was still doing Lite Tuition, our first company. And when we raised over $1.3 million to help students, someone at Kiwanis approached me and said, hey, can we use this for our club? And that started the journey of Lite Raise. Had that question not come to play, we might not have moved as fast as we did because we were like, absolutely, you can use the software that our students use for your club. But it's like, we don't want to use it for scholarships. We want to use it for fundraising. And that's where Lite Raise came to be. 2 years now in business, we've been running. And that conversation, had I not joined that club, became the president, not only went on to become the president, but he come over the state when it comes to leadership, education, and development, I would have never had the question asked at that time that put us on this new track with this B2B software business. So Kiwanis has been a great organization to be a part of. The reason I had to say yes, one, the father told me, so that was automatic.
Yep.
But when I walked in there, because you highlighted earlier where we see leaders, but we don't see that they're hurting.
Yep.
I'm always smiling, but someone in there seen my hurt. I got this motherly hug when I walked in there that made me want to just break down in tears because I've been yearning for a motherly hug for a while. And they all greeted me, Mark, welcome to the club. We're excited to have you here. But it was that hug. I'm like, I'm coming back because that love was just so genuine, authentic, full of strangers I never met. But now they're family, close friends, and they've been advocating for me in so many different ways. So Kiwanis is a global organization changing one child, one community at a time around the world.
That's awesome. So it reminds me of, and you tell me if I'm wrong, it's kind of like this, in some regards, like this Girl Scout, Boy Scout, but for in the space of education all over the world, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's it. That's what I thought it was, only because I feel like I've seen it somewhere. And I love that. So tell me this, given the fact that the climate is where, do you believe that this next generation is going to redirect themselves and education might look different? May not consider 4-year.
Yes. One thing I'm seeing even more, trades is going to be something that's going to be invaluable. So when you think about, now I'm about to nerd out listeners on tech real quick.
Yes.
When you think about how fast tech is moving,
Yep.
do not minimize your value and your work. There's no AI that can come to the house and fix the plumbing.
Thank you,
fix the
Mark.
electrician.
Yep.
I still need human beings to do that. So what
Yeah.
can happen at times, and think about from a news outlet standpoint, they control the narrative. Don't let them control who you are and who you are meant to be. Because if you're given a purpose, the expectations you follow through and you achieve that one. So technology is adversely affecting jobs and changing the way the educational system is. But that's where I learned the most from the Bible. I went to school, I had my bachelor's, but the Bible, basic instructions before leaving earth, is where I really got all the foundation for who I am and what I do. So I would say don't let schooling get in the way of your education. You can learn in so many different ways. Sit on boards, get a good mentor, read books. There's so much wealth in books that you will learn like you never thought. But you don't have to go into debt. And for our young students, nothing's wrong with going to college, trade school, but don't go there because of the glam and the excitement. Actually do the research. We looked at some of these schools and they say it costs $130,000, $160,000 once you graduate.
Yeah.
And you realize their graduates are working in jobs that don't even align with what they went to school with.
Right.
But the school spent more money on marketing than they did on grants, on scholarship, on support. And the last thing I would just say, especially to our parents who might have a first generation student, reach out and ask for help, whether it's the school counselors or different nonprofits. Because what we realized is they will front load you your freshman and sophomore year with all this support. Because guess what happens? By year 3, you are committed. Your child loves the organization, everything's excited, and that's when you realize the funding has been dwindling. The student loans are now going through the roof. And the last thing I would just say, why is it that a multimillionaire, billionaire can write off millions of dollars in debt, but it's next to impossible to write off student loan debt? It is systematically put in place. Sally Mae name wasn't created because it was a family. It was an intern or someone that worked on an organization that said, when I hear the name Sally Mae, it reminds me of my aunt who makes sweet pies. It was a marketing strategy, an easy, soft name that makes you feel comfortable. But guess what? You try to get a business loan, try to get a house, that student loan debt carries on with you forever. So it's going to change, but maybe it's going to change for the good on how we pursue real education.
That's good. So the fact that you were talking to the kids, I gotta say this, is burning inside of me, Mark, because I am a brand girl. So Nike just came out with I don't know if you've seen it, with a new tagline. So it was just do it. And it's for the Gen Z. It's tailored to that. Now we know it's consumerism, capitalism. I know that because that's the world we live in. However, messaging is also what I love and thrive off of. But it says just do it. And it says, why not do it? So that's what they've got, a new message. And it sparked because why not do it, right? So it's forcing you to think about, right? Why not do that, that apprenticeship? Why not be a plumber? Why not decide that you don't want to go to school right now? Like it does, it does relate to that generation. And, I listen to the comments and people are like, well, it's a setup for people to buy Nike. It is. Like, don't get it twisted. But the one thing that I love about the brand is you're never, and you said it, and I believe in this being a lifelong learner. That brand has operated in that space for several decades. And the fact that they paid attention to realize that there is a shift in the way that this generations are looking at it, bravo to them. Bravo to Nike. So, hey, I'm not here to wrangle that, but I am here to say it's teaching us that even with something that's been around for 50, 80 years, right, is now shifting the generation who it wants to talk to. So it just, to me, it just confirmed what you said, right? Is that don't get confused. Why not you, right? So why not that you can, if you are a first generation student, like why not you? Why not you pursue something that none of your family members ever heard of or know? Because we know in the last 10 years, there are jobs that we didn't even know them 10 years ago, right? We didn't even know that there was a diversity officer, regardless of what they are. We didn't know that there was a community developer. Like all these are new jobs. So why not a company or a brand decides that they're going to shift their messaging? So maybe we all got to shift, right? Maybe. And I think you've definitely helped us from that place of heal. So the other thing I want to ask you is Macomb 40 under 40. So you said you were in your 40s. So I'm gonna challenge you to say that 40 under 40 was a while ago, maybe just a year ago.
Ooh, I just barely got in. So what was crazy, I had always wanted to become a 40 under 40. That was something, even in my early 20s, I was like,
too.
I want to be a 40 under 40. I remember last year, I'm like, all right, Lord, this May I hit 40. What we doing? And I got nominated. And it was such a full circle moment because I got the award last November and you had to make sure you were literally under 40. And I just turned 40 this past May. And I was like, wow, it took me what might seem longer to get there. But once I got there, I was more mature, more appreciative, and more prepared for the journey ahead because I'm gonna get to 50 under 50, the 60 under 60, wherever ones they get. Because
that's right.
I understand what it takes to get to that next level, and that was rewarding. So the blessing might seem like it's late, but guess what? It is always on time.
It's always on
it.
time. And you got it. I got a 30 under 30 several years ago. And I got it right at 39 too, Mark. So I understand right at 39. I was like, oh, I finally got it. So you guys, this has just been a moment. So we have this, what we call a BBM. It's called our Black Businesses Brag moment. So it's an opportunity where you can brag. What I will say to you though, Mark, is that most of my women don't brag much, which is okay, but my men certainly come with it. So I don't, and whatever that brag moment is for you, this is your moment.
Absolutely. So let me say this first for the listeners. We have to be our biggest cheerleaders because if we don't support and show up for ourselves, guess what? Our babies would never know that's possible. So as a young black male who's still doing great things, we're going to become the first billion-dollar tech company in Michigan. I'm honored to be that 40 under 40. The Father has put me in room with people that I've only read about in magazines, and He has shown me a vision that we are going to change the landscape of the world for years to come. So I am honored. I am thankful. This is just the beginning. If you haven't heard, keep on following. But most importantly, tune in, listen to support our amazing sister, Mrs. Arnold, fresh off the new name change with the greatness, because this is how we amplify the message. So I will step off my soapbox. I'm honored and thrilled to be here. And thank you for this moment to brag about the beautiful black businesses that we're building.
That I love it, Mark. So tell people how can they connect with you.
Absolutely. You can visit my personal website at Marc, M-A-R-C, Alexander.com. Yeah, make sure to see everybody put the
That's
K,
right, they do.
MarcAlexander.com, or you can follow our journey at Lite Raise, Lite raise.com, on how we're going to reshape the world when it comes to nonprofits.
That's awesome. So tell me this, Mark, do you guys work with nonprofits all over the world?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Because, guys, he's from the Midwest, and we love Detroit, though. We love Michigan. I love Michigan. True story, Mark. That's how so my husband's not from Michigan, but that's where I met him, is in Michigan, in Farmington Hills. He was living there, working there. So Michigan has a special place for us. That's what we said. We got to go back because we had some special moments in Michigan as true Midwestern natives. He's from Chicago, but moved there for a couple of years and then moved back to Chicago. So I want to ask you this: why do Black businesses matter?
Ooh, when you think about, even from a historical standpoint, so much of the things we use today were built and created by Black folks. People like Madam C.J. Walker, from George Washington Carver to the peanut butter to lights, air conditioning, even down to the golf tee. You got to realize a lot of the stuff that makes this country what it is were built by us. And why Black businesses matter is the fact that we have to remember not only who we are, but of whom we are. So when they tried to bury us because they thought it was going to hurt us, they forgot that we were seeds of the Most High God. So guess what? Just like any tree, before it can grow up and be strong, the roots have to grow down and create a solid foundation. And that's what we're doing. So as Black businesses matter, we got to make sure we come together collectively, because our roots are stronger. Because if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together, my good people.
That's it. That one just, oh my gosh, just gives me chills. Tell me this: what brings you joy?
I would have to say my wife, and I got to give a special shout out to my little niece, Aubrey. Those two amazing people. I love my sister. I love all my nieces. Those two amazing people keep me going. I have, and the listeners can't see, but I have a number one Funko cup for my baby Aubrey. She spent her allowance this year to buy me this cup, and she was so excited. She's like, "Funko, you are the number one Funko in the world."
That is
just
so
gives me that
special.
type of joy. So those two
Yes.
people give me amazing joy.
That's beautiful. Oh my God. So we have asked that question, obviously to people, and I'm always amazed of what people say, right? Some people, they will say their husbands, they will say their wives, they will say, so much. And so just to know it's your niece, I think that's so beautiful, because aunties and uncles do make the world go.
Hey, that's right.
Right? The aunties and uncles are the best. And so I bet, Mark, just sitting here having this conversation, I can see why you're the number one Funko. I can see that. I can see that.
Aubrey
I can see
automatically likes you for that comment.
I can see that. I can totally see that. So what's next? Anything next, Mark? Anything next that people need to look out for? Anything next?
I know we have some exciting things. So as a for-profit tech company, we've now officially kicked off our fundraising round. So we're going to have some exciting news to share with everybody this fall. Nice. We have Lite Raise 2.0 that we'll be launching as well, to make sure nonprofits are well equipped. And then we have some big partnerships that we'll be announcing. So a lot of great things to come. That's why tune in, log in, find out more about us, but stay connected. Any way we can help, we'll definitely do so.
Amen. Thanks, Mark. There you have it, guys. You know, this season is all about trauma, and we are just bringing in entrepreneurs who really are, you know, service providers for various organizations. They're just the way that we want to see trauma. We don't want to see it, that it's a human thing. And how do we navigate? Because oftentimes when we think about Black business owners, we only see trauma in the space of just being poor, right? We only see it from that space. And that is it. I mean, that is our truth for sure. But there are people that have used trauma from death, trauma from a number of different things, and really used it for good. And that's what we want to showcase. And know that your trauma is yours, and it's all yours, right? It's about what you do with it that makes it beautiful. Someone said it's a beautiful, they lost their husband. It was a beautiful nightmare. I heard that from Chanel, who lost her husband. And it says sometimes, and I got it, what beautiful nightmare. Like, you hate for something to happen in your life, but it can still be beauty on the other side. So lean in, gain a new perspective. And guys, I'm going to say this as newly married, Mrs. Arnold. Mark kicked it off for me. Do me a favor. Share this episode. Share this with a friend. Share this with a colleague. Share this with an organization. Never go into a room that you say you don't know any Black businesses. We have built this platform for over 3.5 years. We were, rated top 10 entrepreneur for Black entrepreneurship. Truly a blessing. We didn't do it for that acknowledgement, but I will say I'm grateful to be acknowledged. Share this in the boardrooms. Let people know that there is a podcast that shine lights on thriving Black businesses, whether it's a side hustle or it is their full-time business. Be able to arm yourself with what you said, arm yourself with other business owners, figure out how to collaborate, figure out how you can be allies to one another so that we can build a stronger generation of Black businesses that are thriving. So guys, do that for me. Share this episode with a friend. I don't normally say this, you all, but as I walk into this new life, I've got to know that I have to do some things that are uncomfortable because I am taking on this new uncomfortable role, but I love it and I'm excited about it. So do me a favor, share this episode, rock with us, keep rocking with us, help us continue to grow this platform, text us, build our community as we continue to build an ecosystem of thriving Black businesses. Thank you guys. Till next week. Have a wonderful day.
The Black Businesses Matter podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer, marketing, and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. Follow us on Instagram at Black Businesses Matter.